Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Rogue Trader has been out for more than a week, and that means we start getting patches. And the first one came out yesterday. Now, I want to mention right at the beginning that this patch did break some people's save games because it added some functionality where the game will automatically check your save and ensure that you have all of the DLC that was available when you actually made the save. And they did something wrong, but they fixed it within the first, I guess, 20 to 30 minutes, because by the time I woke up, that was all cleared up. So if you've heard about that, shouldn't be an issue anymore. We all know how this goes. You fix one thing and it breaks something else. Then you fix another thing and it breaks something else on top of that. But what I do want to say is, in my personal opinion, if you look at Rogue Trader, Wrath of the Righteous, and Baldur's Gate 3, I think Rogue Trader has been the most stable game up on release. Now, that's without me having played the last couple of acts. So I've definitely heard some rumblings that there are some bugs and issues people are experiencing in those last two acts. But from everything I've heard, it's nothing close to what people were experiencing with Baldur's Gate 3, and certainly not with Wrath of the Righteous. So all in all, it seems like this has been a very, very stable game at launch, but obviously there's some room for improvement, and we're going to talk about that in the patch notes. For those of you who are deeper in the game, if you're having the opposite or frankly the same experience, let us know down in the comments. Let me know what sort of issues you're experiencing, or if you feel like, hey, this game is actually much more stable than I thought it would be at this point. Let me know, because I'm really, really curious what the late game experience has been like for all of you. I am only just now getting into Act 2, so it'll be quite a while before I finally get into Act 4, which is when I experience new content. All right, with all that out the way, let's get into what this patch actually provides. So I'm going to split this video up kind of into two sections. The first section is going to be the stuff that I feel like, oh man, a lot of players are definitely going to be interested to know this. And then the second section will be stuff that I feel like, some people are definitely going to want to know, but it's probably not as widespread important. All right, so to kick things off, and this is just a funny note for me because I'm really curious about how this works out. Companions now properly disappear after leaving the Rogue Trader who has fallen into heresy. Really, really curious to find out what party members flat out abandon you and what sort of impact it has on your playthrough when you completely fall into heresy. So definitely looking forward to progressing more in our live stream so that we see more of that content. You might already hear it in my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather right now, so I haven't been on live, but hopefully on the day this video comes out, I'll be feeling better and we'll get back into it that evening. Officers sees the initiative talent no longer causes infinite loops. So Officer has a talent that basically allows you to get an extra turn right at the beginning of combat. And this trumps just about everything. Like even in boss fights, you'll be the very first person who's able to act, but you're only able to use officer abilities during this. Well, it appears there was some sort of loop. I never experienced the loop, either in beta or the full game, but other people have, where you would just get a turn over and over and over and over and over again. And obviously that really breaks encounters. So it's good that Owlcat has went ahead and fixed this. Arch Militant Versatility feature now correctly counts burst fire as a separate type of attack. So if you're playing as an Arch Militant, there's a buff called Versatility that's triggered when you do different types of attacks, whether it be a single ranged attack, single melee attack, burst fire attack, area attack, melee or range, etc., etc. Every time you switch between them, you're supposed to get another stack of versatility, and the archetype provides you a bunch of different ways to use that buff. Well, it appears before this patch that some players were not getting an increase in versatility when they used burst fire, which is available on bolters as a attack option. But now that has been fixed. Definitely great to hear for all those people making use of Argenta. On that same note, burst attacks can now be made as long as the weapon has at least 2 ammo instead of requiring enough for the full rate of fire. Obviously, if you use a burst fire attack while you have less ammo than what would be needed for a full burst attack, you will shoot less projectiles. So this is interesting because as a soldier, you get the ability to increase your weapon's rate of fire, which significantly increases how many bullets you shoot during burst fire. And previously, if you try to use burst fire while you didn't have enough ammo to do the full burst, it just wouldn't allow you to do it, and it would force you to reload, which, depending upon what type of weapon you are using or what talent you have, it could be very, very costly from an action point standpoint to reload, making it basically not feasible and force you to use a single shot instead. And now you'll be able to use whatever ammo is in the clip. I feel like the disadvantage with this, though, is you'll have to watch very carefully how much ammo you have every time you use a burst attack. Because if you don't have enough ammo to do the full burst attack that you want to, it's no longer going to stop you from doing the attack. So you could potentially limit yourself without even realizing that. So I kind of look at this as 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Next up, on a similar note, bonuses added to over penetration damage were calculated not once on the first hit, but on each hit on the target, and this has now been fixed. So over penetration is what allows your bullet to go through an enemy and hit another enemy. So it's supposed to do full damage on the first enemy that's hit. But then on the second enemy, how much damage you're actually able to do is limited. Looks like that wasn't always working, and full damage was being calculated on multiple targets. So now that it's been fixed, and technically it's going to cause over penetration to be less effective, but honestly, it's just awesome to be able to do that, especially again during burst attacks. So this isn't a big issue. Next up, an enemy who died while moving no longer blocks a cell with their body. This is definitely a huge fix for me. Over and over again, it seemed like I got stopped from being able to charge because the game felt like something was obstructing the path, and it caused me to have to walk around a cell I shouldn't have had to walk around and not be able to charge towards an enemy. So definitely happy that Owlcat has fixed this. Machine Spirit Banishment was incorrectly only reducing range damage, but this has been fixed. So this is actually a talent that Pascal automatically gets, and he can use it against other enemies that have a lot of machinery in their bodies, like Servotrons, and it reduces their overall damage, but looks like it was only working for range damage before, but now that's been adjusted. So very, very nice. The critical hit chance of melee attacks is now increased by 1% for every point of weapon skill the attack has above the target's weapon skill, and it's decreased in the same way if your enemy has more weapon skill than you do. I honestly don't remember how critical hit chance was calculated before, but I believe this is in line with the way it works for a ballistic skill, so it's just making things more uniform. If you all disagree and you feel like this is a huge change, definitely let me know down in the comments. And then finally, big change that I thought you all might want to be aware of. Bleeding was dealing damage towards the character who inflicted bleed instead of the one who received that attack. This has been fixed. So this is a big issue, especially if you're using Drukhari weapons. A lot of them have edges that allow you to inflict bleed upon hit, and it would pretty much make them useless if you weren't able to actually inflict the bleed status on your opposing enemy. So definitely makes those weapons more viable. And those are the big issues that I felt like a lot of you would want to be aware of. There are some other things that are listed in the patch notes, and of course I'll have a link to the patch notes in the description below so you all can browse it for yourself. But going through some of the more general things, obviously there are a ton of fixes regarding lag in this patch. So lag due to pathing when charging or overlapping stratagem areas and log spam, just multiple areas where it could cause the game to bog down. They believe those issues have been fixed. They also fixed enemies running away from you in battle, which could cause stuck encounters. So hopefully that should happen significantly less. And they also fixed a lot of freezing and crashing issues for things like loading a save or when you are exploring some planets. So just all the way around. The game should be more stable. They've also removed the bug report icon that used to be on the right of your screen while exploring. I thought it was kind of funny, honestly, that they had let that in, because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, players are not going to like that. Just tell them they can press Alt B if they want to submit a report. But I understand Alcat's standpoint as well, that they probably realize, hey, players are going to find issues and we want to make it as easy as possible for them to submit those reports when they come across issues that they feel like need to be changed. So hopefully, even with the bug icon being pulled down, they're still getting a lot of reports, allowing them to be able to figure out what's wrong with the game and how to stabilize it even more for players. Next up, Soldiers Firearm Mastery Desperate Measure didn't give additional attacks, but this has now been fixed. If I remember correctly, the Desperate Measures version of Firearm Mastery is one of the few ones where I was like, the penalty is okay. I'll take this and still go ahead and use it because it could really, really turn the tide of the battle. So good to hear that it's working properly now. Operatives Tide of Excellence talent wasn't providing the damage increase, but this has been fixed. That talent provides you with a +1 bonus to damage every time you trigger an exploit until the end of combat, and that bonus stacks. So it's kind of useless without that. So definitely good to hear that it's been fixed. I'm pretty sure it's one of the talents that I use in my Pascal build. Vanguard talent Beacon on Might now correctly adds a strength bonus. This is actually kind of a big deal. This talent lets you take all of those temporary wounds Vanguard allows you to stack, and it translates it into a bonus to strength for 1 round, potentially significantly increasing your melee damage. So definitely nice to hear that it's working properly. Subtitles and inter-chapter videos show correctly. So every time you end a chapter, there'll be a cutscene that kind of recaps a few things and then provides some information about what's supposed to happen in the next act. And the subtitles would just stop after a while. It wouldn't move along with whatever the dialogue was. And so it looks like that should be working properly now. And then finally, there's been a ton of reactivity and dialogue that has been fixed for party members and prominent characters you meet throughout the game. I'm not going to go into details on this since I'm only in Act 2 and a lot of people have not gotten deep into the game anyway, so I don't think it's all that valuable. But I will say a lot of you have reached Footfall in Act 2 by now, and I saw several changes to reactivity and dialogue for Footfall, so you should be seeing more content there. And just all throughout the game, a lot of the checks and the dialogue and the reactions that you're supposed to experience from party members should be working properly now. And that is all the information I saw in the notes that I felt like you all would really want to know. Again, there will be a link in the description where you can see the patch notes for yourself. And definitely let me know down in the comments, how do you feel about the game? Are you having a stable time thus far? Or are there some serious bugs or issues you've been experiencing that you feel like Owlcat needs to address that haven't been addressed by the patch release? I definitely want to know what kind of experience players are having right now. So looking forward to hearing all of your feedback, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.